After the captured ship is traded for their freedom, the crew is finally got a chance to go home. Many are performing interviews to keep themselves in the public eye, though this is more for self-preservation than anything else. The young Pantheons become very vocal about how they are turning against their old society, to the point that they do not even want to be called Pantheons anymore. Instead, they've adopted a human title that was originally meant to be well, pejorative term, so to speak. They call themselves tieflings now. Of course, it's clear to see that, as you see their coloring, their body shape, to include the tail and pointy ears, yet their horns are much smaller than what an artist would portray a tiefling to be. Though perhaps that is perception, as the tallest of these tieflings is only 5'6". Aside from a few very angry people, they are accepted by the majority of humanity, especially as they started teaching about their culture and, more importantly, their technology. As the ship itself is disassembled and checked, the tieflings reveal all their tech secrets. And they reveal this, actually, to the entire world as they chomp at the bit for the new technologies. In particular, things like medical and energy production, and of course, spaceships, which they hope are coming soon. This takes less time than people had imagined, as young tieflings were able to instruct the general population how to create devices that produce electricity forever without using any type of fuel. This drove governments absolutely crazy as they began to lose their death grip on humanity. Those stuck in the old ways would go down fighting to maintain the status quo, to maintain their version of control over everyone, as it faded off like a fart in the wind. While internally fighting over such problems, humanity had another problem. Two of them, in fact. Thanks to the recommendation of the crew and the tieflings, a plan was put into effect. A plan so simple, it bordered on redonkulous. Figuring their best bet was to deal with the Kashmirs first, they headed in that direction. Dealing with Kashmirs was actually pretty straightforward. Catch as many as possible using their favorite bait, which was human. Once they have captured enough of them, bring them in the Kashmir territory and offer the prisoners back in exchange for a parley. The plan went off surprisingly smooth, though it gave a few of the locals a bad case of PTSD as they did not like being the bait. The number of captured Kashmirs was over a dozen a day, though, which everyone can say is a win. After only a month, the prisoners were brought in flatbed trucks in full view of the surrounding areas. Then the humans waited near the cages with a sign that they held up that stated, "We would like to talk to your pride leader." Of course, this was in the Kashmir's language, which, if you looked at it, looked a lot like the kanji, but it was read from right to left and looked like someone had wrote it using a sharp knife. Unknowingly, holding a few of the leader's children, it doesn't take long for the leadership of the Kashmir to appear. The Kashmirs come out in an aggressive stance as though they're going to pounce all over the humans waiting, yet slightly cooler heads had prevailed. The leader of the pride, which was pretty obvious, simply walked up and said, "Let them free." The general in charge simply stated, "We talk first. They will get released afterwards." He then motions to a table under cover. As they sit, the general asked, "So, why are you here?" "Because you hold our people in cages." Allow me to rephrase the question. Why are your people on this planet? Looking at his people, almost hesitant to answer, the leader says, "The indigenous personnel make for excellent hunting, as well as this planet makes a wonderful training ground." "Training ground?" the general asked. "Yes, we must sharpen our skills, and the young must learn." "Learn what? How to kill?" "Yes." "This cannot be done on your homeworld?" The leader paused for a moment and seemed to drop his ears at this question. Our homeworld is not suitable for our young anymore. Confused, the general asked, "Would you please explain why?" The leader and his group whisper amongst themselves, hesitant to actually answer. This is the time that the chow trailer opens its large panels, and the smell of freshly cooked meat flows through the air. This got the attention of the Kashmirs as they watched large containers of freshly cooked meats being brought to the cages along with a whole bunch of water to drink. At the sight of the captives actually enjoying their meal, this shocked the leaders. A tray of food was then brought over to the table. The general simply motioned, and the leadership hesitantly took pieces and then sniffed them, and then consumed the meat, surprised by the flavor and the juicy fat content. To their surprise, a few chickens were actually brought over fresh from the ovens. This surprised the leaders even more as they just scarfed it down without hesitation. Once the meat was gone, the leader turned back, licking his lips. Um, you, you have shown great generosity and great hospitality. It would be unwise to refuse your questions. Another one tried to stop him for a moment, but the leader held up his hand while still licking his jowls. Just as you have discovered, the pantheons use other species to hunt as a rite of passage for their young. To us, this is a strange concept, as we hunt from the time we can walk by ourselves. Yet the pantheon have come to believe that the best of our species to hunt is our young. They reach maturity by the time the hunt actually begins, and much more unpredictable than the elders they are. And also, they are much more durable and harder to kill, which makes them better prey for the pantheon. Because of this, we have moved our young away from our home system. Though we still lose many to their raids, our species can still continue because we do this. Have you not fought back against the pantheons? The general asked. Of course we have. Yet they are far too numerous, and their tech is far beyond ours. We have only been able to leave our crater world by repairing a few derelict vessels that were left behind. He folds his ears and takes a breath as he's trying to keep himself a little bit professional. We copied these ships and tried to fight, but it was a disaster, a slaughter. After that loss, we used the remaining ships to reach out. For some reason, the pantheons will only take from our homeworld. Those that stay are old and infirm, and that is all that is left. The leader of the Pride looked a bit forlorn as he did not want to say any more. The general, seeing this, decided to jump in. It sounds as though you and I have the same problem, the same enemy. What if I told you that we're working on ways to fight back? I would say that you're mad. Did you not hear what I said? They are too powerful and too many. None of our people have returned from facing them. It's impossible. The only reason we know about what happened is we were able to read about it on those ships that we took. Impossible. Impossible? We're humans. Facing the impossible is what we do. Not only have our people beaten them, but they have stolen a working ship. This got the leader's attention. So I ask you, here and now, are you willing to take the fight to the enemy? Are you willing to fight to take back your planet? Are you willing to fight for your freedom? Are you willing to stand next to us and fight to beat the unbeatable pantheons back to their own planet? The general had made a point that that statement was very, very loud. Upon hearing this, many of the young Kashmir started to roar in agreement. Those near the leader started to growl as well as they were saying what they wanted to say. The leader then chimed in. What would you desire in return? Simple. Stop hunting our people and the fauna of this planet. Once we free your homeworld, you and your kind will leave this planet and sector. Permanently. These are acceptable terms as long as you promise us you will not leave us at the mercy of the Pantheon ever again. The general stood up and said, "Well bargained and done." The general then reached out to shake the leader's hand. The leader stood and was unfamiliar with his gesture, but stuck his hand out, or claw out, and said. The general then grabbed the leader's hand and shook it firmly. He then turned to his subordinates, and without a word, just a look and a nod, and then all they could hear was the sound of keys into locks, locks being removed, and large cage doors opening as that filled the air. The leader roared, saying something to the effect of, "We're allies now," perhaps trying to keep his own people from pouncing on the humans now that they're free. And everyone watched as the former captured Kashmirs jump off of the trucks. As the former prisoners go back to their family, an odd scene plays out. A female Kashmir brings her supposed mother and young brother over to one of the soldiers. The general looks on with his staff, and they're confused. She appears to be introducing the young man to her family, and then, some reason, begins to rub her face against his, forcing his helmet to be pushed back and aside. This was very odd to see, as she stood about 6'7". As the mother then seems to climb up next to her daughter and do the same gesture, the young soldier just kind of stands there, looking over towards the general. The still image that was taken of this odd display was just as the young soldier looks over at the camera. Even with the dark eye protection, any human can see the look of fear, confusion, and a straight look of, "oh shit," on his face. This became the internet meme instantly and showed that one of the hostile species on the planet was now our friends. Word spread quickly around the world that negotiations had succeeded. Also, the human engineers were figuring out the new tech. By best estimates, using this new technology, they'll be able to refit, just within a few years, the entire F-35 fleet worldwide, as well as the American F-22s, along with the European Gripens and Rafales. Though this is going to make those aircraft even more deadly than they already are, this isn't even coming close to what's going to be done with the ground vehicles and the watercraft. Just to put in perspective, the potential power output alone will more than double any Navy ship's speed. Of course, changes to drones, or more appropriate, the upgrades to drones, are beyond exceptional. There's just one more issue to deal with before everybody starts celebrating. That would be the Yankins, who are still entrenched and will not answer hails. Yet they might start listening soon enough. Using a similar plan than before, the Yankits are pulled into a trap and caught. The main issue is that Yankits use gear and always seem to have a blade on them somewhere, so simple snares are not going to work very well at all. Wire snares work for a while, but not very long, as they figured out a way to actually sever the line. Deadfall traps work all right, but the size of the Yankits is the issue. They're even bigger than the Kashmir. This reptilian species is very wide and also very heavy. One would think that they have a distinct advantage over humans because of this. However, as it turns out, their muscle fiber is not nearly as dense as humans, meaning that they look a whole lot more dangerous than they actually are. One would think that you can simply overpower one-on-one. Sure, if you can get past their energy weapons, you can. This concentrated energy balls of sparky hate that they fire will cause third-degree burns as it overloads your nervous system, your heart, and your brain. One can recover if they're shot in the arm or the leg, but a shot to the face or to the chest, and you're done. On top of that, There is the self-destruct device that they all seem to carry. What was surprising is that humanity found a way around all of this by sheer accident, ambushing one of the Yankets on an abandoned factory. The team that ambushed him utilized a taser on max setting. Not only did this send the Yankit to the ground howling in pain and eventually pass out, but it fried his self-destruct device and forced the emergency weapons to eject their power cell to keep from exploding in their hand. Once this was discovered, all the humans had to do was get close. And of course, they didn't realize that humans are very, very sneaky. During interrogations, the Yankits didn't want to talk. Eventually, the threat of watching its child be executed in front of it got one of them to talk. To his surprise, once he agreed to converse with the humans, his son was brought straight to him and handed to him. The human interrogator simply said, "You see, I'm a man of my word. Now it's your turn." The Yankit agreed to aid in the dialogue between humans and his own people, and soon a familiar scene played out. This time, the Yankit elder would be the ambassador. As the humans watched on, they saw what seemed like an odd scene that sounded like a mix of howls, screams like banshees, hisses, and clicks. And the ambassador came back with news that the Yankits have agreed to leave the planet if the humans are able to free his people and his planet. This plea came more pronounced as the Yankits have very, very low biological potential. This was pronounced as, on average, a female Yankit having 4 offspring is considered a high amount, especially since they're now a space-faring species. With all 3 species doing everything they can to protect their children, the stage is set. No species on the planet knows how much time they have before the Pantheons come back for their next load of prey. As all the species toil in preparation for the upcoming battle, the crew that had returned has another issue. Apparently, there's something off in their blood work. This concerned everybody, yet they realized that there wasn't probably going to be an issue because there was a massive kick forward in technology. But they need to be ready to make sure there's no issues because they are getting ready to kick some serious alien ass.